Have you ever been locked out before, Joe?
Yeah,
How was that?
long.
And you wanted to get let in?
I wanted to be let in, yeah. I was knocking on the door to let me in, but you know what?
No one let you in.
No one let me in.
Right.
Welcome to the Let Me In podcast. Welcome. It's our first episode of Let Me In podcast.
Mm-hmm.
This is a podcast that hopefully will revolve around people's experiences and attempts to get into the entertainment industry. We've got myself and Jad have two quite different lives. We live together,
That's right.
so we've got quite similar lives on a literal level, but I suppose I'm going to describe Jad and Jad's going to describe me.
That's a good idea.
Jad is a writer. He is a writer. He has been writing short films, long formatted stuff,
Yeah?
long form content. He's written blogs. He has written sketches. He's acted in sketches, produced them, and he's obviously now a co-host on a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a all-round stand-up guy, if a little vain.
A little?
I was being polite.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't have a mirror in my room.
Yeah, I find that insane.
Just
I'm more insecure than you somehow.
I reckon I go most of my days without looking at myself.
Mm.
But that's not my whole identity. I'd hope you don't
So
think.
no. So I've described Joe as a doer. He's a coach in football. You describe me so well. I'm kind of nervous now to describe you. You're very productive. I think you don't kind of wait for people to tell you what to do. You're very proactive with sort of exploring new ventures. And in that sense, I think you're very keen to kind of find out more about the entertainment industry and the film industry and what those people kind of sort of go through to, get to where they want to be. And I think you're really you're a curious person. And would you say all of that is fair?
I don't know what a doer is.
You do things.
Yeah, people. Yeah, I do things. I'm industry adjacent, is what I would call myself as well.
Yep.
And when I say that, I mean that because obviously living with Jad, who is a writer, my brother, Dan is an actor.
He is.
And I have, let's say, zero experience in the arts industry itself.
Yeah.
This is
Well, you did
my
it
first venture.
well in the sense that you designed a logo earlier, and I watched you do it.
I did, yeah.
And I was really surprised.
Yeah, I've made things on Canva before.
Yeah, it was good.
I quite like Year 9 drama. I bin that stuff off as soon as the options came in, but I didn't mind it.
Your world is expanding.
Well, it's massively expanded, mate. But
Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's very different. It's different, but also somewhat similar to my environment.
How so?
Like, so sports is still the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
It's just, I suppose, maybe not what people call a creative industry. I have a problem with that word, but I won't get into it.
What do you find the most similar then between the two? That's just from
Similar.
Yeah.
People are following their passions.
Oh yeah.
And it's a little bit. There's a reason I don't like the idea of creative industry is that I find creativity comes in every industry, and people are able to be creative in both my industry and maybe the arts.
Yeah.
In that, mine may look a little bit different. It might look more like different ways. I don't know. If it's a tactical thing, so you're going from, can you overcome someone's tactics, and how can you beat what they're trying to do when they're trying to beat you, and et cetera, et cetera. How can I?
That's creative thinking, right?
Creative thinking, or I'm trying to create a way of playing or a way of coaching that is more beneficial than what's previously come before and what I've seen, et cetera, et cetera. I believe obviously creativity is the highest form of intelligence. So once you're able to, understand, explore, experiment with different experiences you've had, whether that be consciously or subconsciously at all, you get to a point where you can be creative. You can mix and match things and create things that are new. Yeah. That's why I don't like it being called creatives.
All right.
But yeah, I think it's similar in that sense. People enjoy what they do as well.
No, we had this conversation, but I actually have learned to agree with this.
Okay.
Because I think I bit back a bit when we first talked about this, because I think I was maybe in some ways gatekeeping that word. I feel as though I feel like I've always been inherently creative. Yeah. And you had issue with that.
Yeah, just that you can't be in every aspect of your life, because at some point, again, because I believe it's
in your opinion,
where I see it, in my opinion, you can't be creative in something that's brand new. If I was to teach you how to build a house, you wouldn't be creative at minute one. You might be explorative, or you might experiment with things because you just like doing that. But at the beginning phase, you're gonna have to learn how to do it. Okay. And you're not gonna build a house differently to anyone that ever built it before. Yeah. I mean, you can try. So from a literal point, just trial and error.
I hear that.
But I don't think that comes from a creative place. That's more trial and error. I'm just gonna do something different. Rather than I'm gonna build upon my knowledge.
Do you feel as though some of like the artsy bullshit that is produced gets away with the word creative.
Yeah,
when
because
it's
you
sort
know what
of
you
like
want. There's no wrong answers sort of mentality.
Right.
Whereas I suppose the difference in sport is there are wrong answers because you lose.
Right. Yeah.
And sometimes it can be very objective. It can be a scoreline or a time, or depends on your sport. I suppose that's one difference.
Okay.
I think the other difference as well, though, is that the entertainment industry is much more accepting and explorative, I think, than maybe the sporting world is, or at least football is. But anyway, so today we're going to start off with, as I say, getting to know Jed, getting to know his story, where he's at, what he plans to do, how he's got here, and how he's feeling about it, and how he's got over some of the things he's had to deal with in life and within the industry. So if you were to describe your life as a story, from start to middle and end, where do you feel you are in that story, and why?
I would say I'm at the end of a really long beginning.
Okay.
In the sense that if we're talking like story structure, if we're talking, you begin somewhere, you begin at an equilibrium before you, embark on an adventure. You take up the call to adventure. I feel like, up to this point, I've sort of been really figuring out what my equilibrium is, both like artistically and literally, in my life. And then now it's really kind of been more focused in. So I would love to think that this is the end of the beginning, End
of the beginning, about to enter into the middle.
Yeah. Like, there's a lot of new things happening, which we'll mention, obviously, a bit later on. But there's a lot of new kind of projects and career stuff that I would love to... if this was a middle, bro, this is
if this is the peak.
If this is the middle, man, like fuck. Like, fuck. No, I think there's a lot of goals and places and things I want to accomplish. So, with that in mind, I would say that this is the end of a long beginning. I answered that so badly.
I quite like the art, though. The end of a long beginning. A real beginning, though. A real story.
Yeah. Like the previous to this, it's been very much just kind of putting the puzzle pieces together, and now the puzzle's more in focus and the picture's more in focus. I feel like I can actually...
You're finishing up the corners of the puzzle.
Yeah, that's a much better. That's a much better analogy.
Yeah, well, I'm a writer in that, so it's it's a good thing.
I'm pretty neurotic, if you hadn't noticed.
Yeah, Jed likes to use words I don't understand, make me feel small.
It's not true.
Yeah. Anyway,
cool. I taught Joe the word dichotomy.
Yeah, he did.
He likes that one now.
Yeah, I use it quite a lot as well.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's top word. Well, I don't know if I use it correctly, but I say it with confidence. And if anyone tries to say I'm wrong, I just tell them they're wrong. And I run away and never deny it the rest of my life.
That's what you got to do.
Cool. So you're at the beginning. You're at the end of your beginning. All right, about to hit the middle. What has the beginning looked like for you?
Confusing. No. I think like the beginning's been a lot of. I think because I'm very artistically focused, and I've always been like that. There's been a lot of kind of people older than me trying to kind of figure out what I want to do, and I've been barely able to figure out what I want to do until the last couple of years or the last few years or so. So a lot of it has been really just focusing on what am I good at, and what do I enjoy doing, and who do I enjoy working with, and I was just a lot of trying different things.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of like, luckily I think when I was about 17, I remember before that I was really unfocused. When I was about 17, I had an experience at college where I was studying film. And I accidentally did a project basically too early. We were supposed to do, for our second year of study, we were supposed to write a short script, about like a 40-page script, which is equivalent to about 40 minutes of screen time. Anyway, we were supposed to just do the plan for that, and I misread the assignment. I just did the whole thing. Like I didn't know how to write a script or anything, but I went away over about 5 days and just found out how to write a script, wrote the script, handed it in, and my teacher was like, well, why have you done that? And I was like, well, I thought that's what we were supposed to do. And he was like, well, what are you going to do for the rest of the year? Because that's the year coursework. I was like, well, I don't know.
I'm going to just chill, son.
Yeah. And so anyway, he felt bad for me. So he went away and read it. And then like a couple of hours later, he came back over. And he kind of looked weird. I remember he looked kind of, I don't know, he just looked confused. So I was a bit like, fuck, like this was probably really bad. Like I didn't know what I was doing at all. I really enjoyed doing it, but I didn't know what I was doing. And he asked me, he was like, have you written a script before? And I was like, no. Anyway, he sat me down and he was like, look, this is probably the best student script that I've ever read. And I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, can I photocopy it and show the other lecturers? And I was like, yeah, of course. And he was like, look, this is really good. Have you thought about this actually like seriously? And I was like, not really. I was like, I barely think about
anything.
I can barely think about what I did yesterday or what I'm doing tomorrow. Like, and he was like, listen, like, you probably should. If you really enjoy doing this, you can think about this seriously, because if this is the first script you ever written, like it's a higher level than it should be. So that was a big awakening. I remember I went away and I was like, oh my God, like I really want to do, I've never enjoyed doing something, and I've never inherently, or just I've never really been told that I was that good at something that I also happen to love doing. Like it's just never really ever happened. That was a really big turning point. So yeah, and then off the back of that, I guess I went through the education system. I went through uni, where I got to kind of know a bit more, obviously, about that craft, which was script writing, and then that went into writing like prose for, novel writing and that sort of thing. And I got to know a lot more about storytelling in general. Like I didn't really know anything. Like, I remember I went into uni, and everybody else felt, I don't know if that's just a general imposter syndrome or whatever, but like everyone else felt way more, just a lot smarter than me, like in their knowledge on story. And a lot of people had been like, yeah, I've been reading this and this, these are my influences. And I was there like, I don't know, someone one time told me I was good at this.
Yeah.
And then I guess post uni, it's been sort of taking that knowledge and then kind of figuring out where I fit in. Because for me, it's very much just storytelling. I really enjoy storytelling. I don't really know exactly what avenue that's going to end up looking like, or that's going to sort of where I'm going to end up. But yeah, it's been a kind of confusing time almost. I mean, obviously I did also, same as you, graduated during COVID, and there weren't many jobs, and I sort of, so I guess I was, at that period of time, I really, finishing uni, did not know what to do, like, at all.
I mean, what you described there, I suppose, is something called self-determination theory, which is around how you become determined, essentially how you create people who are motivated themselves, and almost something that's called maybe autonomous motivation, which is obviously very intrinsic, comes from loving things. And a big part of self-determination theory, though, is obviously having that intrinsic feeling, but also that passion towards something. And when you meet that passion with that motivation, and then you are successful, because a big part of it obviously is also mastery and feeling like you are competent, that creates something in people, I think, whether that be in writing or anything, to be honest. That creates something really powerful. And I wouldn't take that for granted. It's something that people search for in their life, and also the impact of people on there. So your tutor who's gone to you and said this is so good, was such an important, we'll go with puzzle analogy again, such an important puzzle, it sounds like, piece of your puzzle, in your whole life. So you talk about having influence on people, that's pretty substantial.
That's probably the biggest influence in terms of, just talking about career. That's probably the biggest. Like without that, I wouldn't have. I wouldn't.
Who knows what you'd be doing
now. Yeah, I don't know, man. Homeless.
Let's give him a shout out then. Who is this now?
Dan Hard.
Dan Hard of Esher College.
Yeah, man. He was a good teacher as well, just in general. Aside from the fact that he rubbed my ego,
like he made me the vain man I am today.
Yeah, exactly. No, he was a cool guy, and I haven't spoken to him since I finished college.
Yeah.
But I would love to tell him.
We'll get him on. We'll have a little chat with him. No, that passion has fueled you for years now. We're talking, I don't know how many years we're on now, sort of 6 or 7 years of almost one comment. Is 8 years of passion, right?
Yeah, man.
It's created 8 years of passion for something. Now, passion is brilliant, and it's something that people look for, and people who haven't got one find hard, But making that passion into a career is a huge step and a really big ask. And obviously, one of the big things you want to speak about on here.
Right.
Where are you in that journey?
Not sure.
Okay.
Because I've had a bit of experience. I mean, I've got kind of like my CV now is quite colourful in some ways, where I've worked on a set for a little bit.
Yeah.
I worked on a Netflix set.
Ooh.
Which was really cool. I mean, and that was through kind of talking to people, and there's a lot of talking away into jobs, it feels like, in this industry of kind of, people like you, they're like, okay, cool, rather than actual experience.
What were you doing on that set?
Just fucking around.
Okay.
No, I was doing location marshalling, and then I ended up doing a bit of extra work, which was cool. And then that kind of like very occasionally branched into sort of just running and doing running work and stuff.
Oh, decent.
And that was a really great learning experience, because I kind of learned, I don't know if it was that set or not, but for me, I don't love working on set. I would do it again, and it was a great experience, and I love having that on my CV now. When I've been in interviews, people were like, oh, okay. And then, it's actually not that hard of a job. It's just, it looks great. But yeah, no, in terms of my career, I'm trying to just create a big portfolio of work that expresses, people can see that I have a love for stories and film and TV, and I kind of want to express that through my experience in order to maybe then move into a professional environment of the like. But right now, I've just been focusing on a lot of written work, been blogging,
Yeah.
horrible blogs,
What's your blog called?
dumb stories from my dumb life so far.
Yeah, nice.
Got a short film coming out soon. I've written some longer form content, some longer form films that are sort of in the process of potentially selling.
Yeah.
So I think right now, the reason I say beginning is I feel like I have a lot of stuff.
Mm.
I have a lot of stuff built up. It's now kind of focusing on what to do with that.
You've been slowly sort of building foundations,
Yeah.
creating the sand and the whatever else goes into the foundations
Yeah.
to allow you to push on. Because now I think, from knowing you for the last sort of 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
I feel you're in a place where you're much more confident.
Mhm.
You've done a few more things,
Yep.
and you're ready to start.
Yeah.
You're ready to actually start making things, putting things out there. You've been putting things out there in terms of your blog and
Mm-hmm.
some short form stuff in terms of like TikTok and Instagram content,
Oh yeah.
which he likes to pretend he doesn't do.
Yep.
And then obviously the short films and the long form scripts, and
Yeah.
ready to really, and bit by bit it comes, because from observing you, like, starting something new is hard, because I think there's a pressure. I think you put pressure on yourself, I don't think anyone else, that it has to be brilliant, has to be good,
Yeah.
has to be liked.
Ah.
Liked is hard. And obviously that's been quite apparent when I watch you, when you're doing like your social media content. You literally can see the likes, you can see the views, you can see the, all those things, and it is important to you. You do bring it, you do talk about it quite a lot when it's on
What?
there. Just that, is it popping? Is it being watched?
Oh yeah.
You compare to other people, as everyone would do, and if you think you don't, you're a liar.
I care.
Yeah, so
Sort of.
getting to a place where you're happy to put out social media content, write films, create films, write the blogs, create a podcast, talk on there, some other bits in the future coming on later on, which we'll talk about. But, there's a lot of things that are happening underneath the surface. And I think that's probably true of, I imagine, again, as I said, I don't know, but to me sounds like the pathway of most people who are successful. I hope for you at least.
Yeah.
Because I think doing things is hard. I think doing things takes confidence, which I think you underestimate.
Yeah. How so?
Well, I think people often don't bother trying. Most people don't try.
Oh, as in I underestimate.
How far you've come by doing something like creating that short film, I think is a huge leap.
Okay.
Because I want to talk about, we'll talk about that everyone likes it in terms of story structure.
I hated filming there.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second, but we'll talk about story structure.
Okay.
And here's where I'm going to show my wealth of knowledge.
Yep.
I want to talk about the times in your story arc where we're at the low point.
Okay.
So I feel like uni or education system was, you went through that. That's the almost the intro scenes.
Yeah, yeah.
Then you had a setback. That setback to me, I don't know if you think it's the same, is coming out of uni into COVID.
Oh yeah.
And not having a obvious route, which obviously you do have in traditional education.
Yeah.
How did you find that period of your story?
Scary. Because it was the first time that I felt like I just didn't know what to do. Like, and I kind of woke up every day, and I think adults would there were adults who would sort of be like, who would try and help, but I think my path is so, I think so much of it is taking initiative.
So what did that look like for you then? So you come out
At the time.
What did you do? What was your first step?
Well, I always wrote. Like I kept writing because that's important to me. So I kind of always, I was writing. I wrote a pilot for a comedy series, which I still have, which is okay. It's fine. I may do something with it one day, might not, because again, I wrote it when I wasn't in a great place, so I don't know if it's any good. I wrote a feature film, which is dog shit. But
you did it.
But I did it. I did that to prove, because I hadn't at uni. Obviously, a lot of it is in a lot of modules you start something, but you don't finish it. So you write the start of something, because obviously lecturer can't mark.
A whole thing.
Yeah.
For 30 people, whatever it is.
So I wanted to be able to write a project from start to finish. So I did that.
Yeah.
I was writing a lot, but I didn't, like, in terms of actual. I mean, coming out of uni, I hadn't lived in London for a while, so I didn't really have any contacts or anything. I didn't have anyone I knew that was doing it. But then obviously gradually, and I think also just mentally, I wasn't in a great, like, with everything going on in the world. I think with my relationship as well. I don't know, like, it just felt like everything slowed to a stop, and it was kind of hard to start that back up.
Yeah.
And it felt as though, and eventually it did, obviously.
I mean, the whole world did literally come to a stop. So it is to bear in mind. I think there's an element of that is normal whenever you come out of uni, but probably was more amplified by lockdown, by COVID, by lack of production, lack of jobs, lack of anything.
I didn't know what to do. Yeah. And I think, and also like a lot of behaviors I noticed for me came out during that period. A lot of like, because I'm not, I mean, I can procrastinate for sure. And as you've seen, I can procrastinate. Oh, yeah, I procrastinate. When I was in my third year of study, I remember I was super productive. Like I remember I would not have a day off, like ever really. I wouldn't really party or anything. And I would just work and work and work. I really wanted the first.
Yeah.
And I just really was enjoying it. Like it was just, and then that kind of went away. And I noticed out of the education system during that period, a lot of behaviors came out for me. So like a lot of procrastination and fidgety like I got kind of, my attention span became worse, and I just started to notice, I was like, this is more than, I've always had a bit of a thing with focus in general.
Yeah.
Not at uni, because when I was at uni, it was so specific what I was doing and where I had to go and what I had to do. And I almost found it easy to then take initiative on top of that. But the point is, after uni, a lot of my focus was terrible. And eventually I think a few people kind of said to me, oh, bro, I think you have ADHD.
Yeah.
And I was like, nah. And then I actually like sat down and thought about it. I was like, oh, maybe. So I got tested for that, and it turned out I do.
There you go.
To kind of like answer your question, as in terms of like a low point in the story, definitely that year or two after uni, like, yeah, that was rough.
So what did you do then? So
drugs.
Nice. So you're at a low point now, and the reason I want to bring that is, I think lots of people enter that low point, and that's the last point. That's the end of their story in terms of their attempt to make it into and follow their passion. So how come you didn't end your story at that point, at that low point?
Well, I'm quite lucky in the sense that, in this specific sense, that I now know, no matter how low I am, I never lose a passion for writing and stories.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't impact that at all. Like I feel worse about it. Like I feel like I'm a bag of shit sometimes, but like I will always have the motivation to write, and how public that writing probably gets affected.
Okay.
And how the quality probably also does get affected. But even so, like I think I was gonna say I'm lucky. I've watched a lot of friends out of uni stop, lose their passion very quickly. And I just, this is not something I can particularly relate to. I can't explain it any better than I feel fortunate that for me, however I am in life, it's very much an integral part of
who you are.
Yeah, like and so that never really wavered. And I think I've had people say to me before, if you're feeling low, remind yourself of that. Like that's quite a big deal.
You've overcome something difficult. Do you know what is there in your head, like a moment in the plot that changed your story from that negative to what I feel now is, like you say, you sort of not doing, you'd write in, but not doing too much to suddenly
shifting from that privatized writing to public,
and a bit more purposeful. I feel
like
you're doing things with purpose, with a bit of a plan.
So I wrote all that stuff before. So I wrote like that film, and I wrote that pilot, but I kind of never, my confidence was quite low. Like I don't think I had a lot of intention of actually putting them anywhere. Whereas I suddenly had this moment last year where I was like, I need to release something because I have this fear of people reading my work or whatever. Yeah. And I need a quick way to release work that doesn't really, not necessarily not matter, but like it's not going to live up to this insane anxiety I created in my head.
Yeah, definitely.
So I was like, well, I'm just going to write a blog because who cares?
Yeah, very correct. Who cares about a blog?
I was like, if no one reads it, I don't care. If 1,000 people read it, great. Like, but I started doing that.
I'm going to call you out on something there that you do care a bit.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I don't. It's important, I think, to say, I do care. People,
all right, I care
listen to it.
I care a bit.
You do like.
If nobody read it, I'd be a bit like, well, that sucks.
Yeah, I think people reading it gives you a boost.
So yeah, sometimes.
If nobody read it, you wouldn't still do it.
No, but it would also be. I think if nobody read it, I would feel a bit, because I also tend to believe in good work. Will find a way. Like people will find a way to it. Usually, like not necessarily thousands and thousands of people, but good work will have some reaction. Like some reaction. If your work is constantly getting no reaction, you're probably doing something wrong. Yeah. No reaction. Even if your reaction is like everyone hating it, that's better than nothing. I really believe that.
Yeah, agreed.
If you're uploading stuff and people are not. Anyway, moving on. I was going to say. So kind of getting over that fear of releasing stuff and just putting something out. That was a massive shift.
Yeah.
Like that was sort of, and that led to it. And I saw that in itself, like it's just a blog, but I started to see that as a progression in terms of like a story structure. Maybe I think I got a bit too meta with it earlier in the year, where I was like, I don't know what to do because I feel like the story structure of this blog is complete, which is really counterproductive to the, a blog. But
is there a name for it in story writing, or however you want to call it, in that moment where the main character has that shift?
Climax, you could call it. Like, it's probably sort of 2/3 into the story you get a climax, and that's when everything comes together. I mean, I'm not explaining this very well. It'd be.
Do you know what I mean, though? In terms,
I know what you mean. I know, because in some ways I see that though as an inciting incident. So
it's like when Superman learns how to use his powers. Is that your insight?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think so. I think that kind of spurred on everything else, and I really, if I'm being so totally honest. The first 6 months of doing that blog, like some of the things people were saying to me, and they were, I won't lie, like it's not got like an enormous following or anything.
No.
But like the people that read it.
Yeah, people like it as well.
People read it. People read that shit.
And if you don't read it, then
you're not
time to
missing,
start.
Well, but the thing is, there was some things. So for instance, one person said something to me one time, and I'll never forget it. And I really was humbled by this person saying this to me. And I don't take it for granted at all. But this girl came up to me at a party in January, and I don't know her. I'd never met her before, but she was a friend through a friend, and she'd obviously found my blog through their Instagram or whatever it was. And I remember I was talking to her, and she was like, "Oh, you're Jed," and I was like, "Yeah,
I am."
She was like, "I read your blog," and I was like, "Oh my god, that's so nice, thank you." And she was like, "I'll be so real with you." She was like, "Yeah, honestly, like, it makes me feel really seen. Like, it makes me feel really warm inside." And she was like, "It makes me feel like, she was like, you explore the world of an introvert in a way which I've never really experienced before." And I was kind of like, I had to walk away.
Do you think you're an introvert?
No,
I would.
But I would say I'm quite introspective in when I blog.
Okay, so I would describe you as an extrovert.
Yeah.
But
I think I write when I write in that format.
It feels introverted.
Well, I try and
it's almost like your inner monologue, I guess.
Yeah, and I try and be really honest. Like that's the main thing when I write. I try and be super honest to the point where I'm like, I don't, honest to the point where I think people would often find it uncomfortable to do themselves, because I kind of want to prove. Part of it is proving a point that who cares.
Yeah, I mean the biggest compliment I can give it is that I read it.
Thanks, mate.
And I don't read a lot. Although I read it more and more these days. I've read a few books.
You read a couple of business books.
A couple of business books.
What do you get out of it? Just out of interest.
I don't know. It's just entertainment, if I'm honest. I just like reading it. I can hit, because obviously I know you quite well. Like I can hear you saying it. It's almost like you telling me a story.
Yeah,
is how I describe it. It's written in a very easy to read form.
Yeah,
it's not overcomplicated. It's humorous. Like you say, it is honest. So yeah, to me, it's very light reading. It's just something. It's just interesting to read and hear about and listen to your nonsense and try and figure out who you're talking about at times. Yeah, but most of the time I know it anyway. But no, it's good. And yeah, I think that was, what do you call it again? Incitement.
I would say the start of that blog would be an inciting incident.
How far do you feel from that moment? Do you feel like you are still in that explosion?
Oh yeah, like 5 minutes in the film from that.
Yeah, 5 minutes into your film. How long is your film?
4 hours.
Okay. What are you doing now then? What's your next bit?
So that's the next part of the story? Coming up. So what I really found from doing that blog, for me, especially in writing, was, and this will lead on to something. I'm not just
it's all right.
babbling. Is I really found a need for community. So like through that blog, that was kind of the best part of it, was people kind of having this weird community of freaks like myself. Maybe that's the wrong word to use, but I love a freak and I feel a bit like a freak myself. So it was kind of like, I'd write about stuff that I'd always kind of, thought about in my head and thought, this is weird to think. And then people, having people be like, no, I think like this. And I'm like, yeah, okay. That both generally as people, but also artistically, and having that community, I realized is kind of why I want to write in the first place. And I only really realized that last year. So going forward from that, aside from doing these kind of creative things, we've curated this event that's going to be taking place on the 3rd of December, and it's a free event.
It's free?
It's free, so you should come.
Where is it, Jed?
It's in Vauxhall, in Mother Kelly's in Vauxhall. It's a tap room. Okay. 30 taps, 30 different beers.
Yeah.
Wines.
Nice.
Spirits.
What is it?
What's what?
What's the event?
Oh, what's the event? Oh, it's a short film screening and networking event. So
Okay.
we've got 4 really cool short films. My short film's going to play.
Yeah.
And there's going to be gaps in between the films. If you want to chat to people, there'll be people there in the industry, in and around the industry, who want to kind of, get to know other filmmakers, actors, directors, and those sorts of people.
Yeah.
And it's going to be really fun. It's free and it's on a Sunday. And it's just like, I think that really off the back of, last year and stuff, it feels like a natural progression to kind of really physicalize that idea of community. I think, I don't know if physicalize is
Yeah, no, I think it's brilliant, mate. Genuinely, I think it's, like you say, it is natural progression, but it's also evolution. I think it's a step forward. Like, if you just said to yourself a year and a half ago, you'd be making events, you'd be creating different types of content, which all off your own back, and some of it's getting made into life, and you're going to see it in the physical world. You'd be buzzing, and most would be buzzing, and it's not.
I'd cry though.
Okay.
I'd get anxious.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, I'm an anxious man.
Yeah, but yeah, whatever. But to get there, every single piece of your puzzle, like you say, in your 10,000 piece puzzle, is just a piece, and it takes bit by bit by bit. And I think I'm quite proud of you. I think it's nice to watch what you're doing. Cheers, pal. And it's nice to see. So yeah, look, if you're around December the 3rd, it's a Sunday, from 5 o'clock till 9 o'clock. There'll be some films being shown. People who are making them will be there.
Yeah.
Other people from the industry hopefully will be there. We'll have some production companies in there.
Yeah.
It should be just a good evening. It's free. Come along. You'll get to meet Jad Steele if you haven't already, which is an honour in itself.
You can meet me.
Yeah. And you can tell him you've read his blog and give him some more compliments.
No, don't do that.
But no, look, I mean,
I don't need that.
So the next part of your story, hopefully, will come alongside this podcast.
Yeah.
Where we can sort of explore your journey as time goes on, as we will for other people, and hopefully it gives a little bit people some inspiration. I mean, is there anything you
could be a bum like me and still make it.
You can be as useless as Jad Oliver Steele and still be all right.
Yeah.
Is there any advice you'd give to somebody who maybe is in that low?
Yeah. I would say if you're in that low, just the best thing you can do is, this is going to sound, I don't know how to say this without sounding cliched, but one thing at a time, like generally just one thing at a time, you're not going to produce your best work like then and there. You could, but like just do something, write something, and it doesn't need to be great, but I've written so many different scripts and so many blogs at this point and just short films. Honestly, out of all of them, there's probably like 85% of it not good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
And it doesn't matter.
And I suppose that's one of the reasons we made Let Me In. If you're in that moment and you're finding it hard, please do reach out.
Oh yeah.
You can reach out to us
I'll chat to you
on Instagram, Let Me Insta, or our website, letmeinproduction.co.uk. And we want to create that community. So if you're struggling to find people to work with, or you want ideas, or you want a little bit of advice, please do reach out, and we'll try and push you in the direction of other people, because the more people we know, and as this journey goes on, we want to put people together.
Yeah.
And help people collaborate. I think collaboration is a big thing.
Yeah,
I think finding people who doing things with you gives you that boost of confidence, gives you that sort of spark to, like you say, do something, take a next step, because everyone has another step they can do. It's just whether or not you can see it, I think, is the hardest thing. I think that was what I see from you is sometimes you feel like there's nowhere to go, and actually there's a million other options. Yeah. But finding those options is the hardest bit. But as I say, look, reach out to us if you want a hand, or to Jad. If you want to follow Jad's blog and you want to read from that, how can they find that, Jad?
It's called Dumb Stories from My Dumb Life. I think that is the handle on Instagram. If it's not that, then it'll be Dumb Stories Dumb Life. Yeah, you'll find it. Give it a go. You'll find it. Yeah, he's brilliant at promotion. It's got like 5 followers, so you'll find it.
Yeah. But no, come along to the event if you're around. Generally, I think it'll be a really good time. We hope to host more in the future if you can't make that one. So just stay in touch and we'll do it there. But thank you very much for listening.
Thanks, guys. Cheers. Thanks, Joe.
You're very welcome. Thanks, Jad.
It's all right.
See you later.
See ya.